My name is Dasee Berkowitz, and I am thrilled to be a part of this Global Day of Jewish Learning in a session that you've all joined called Love Becoming a Soulful Parent. And I'm really delighted to be joined by some friends of mine who are sitting also in Jerusalem, Jessica Steinberg and Dara and Robbie Grossman, who are with us here to be able to, have a little bit of a chavruta or a group learning together. Really delighted that you've all joined us tonight. Just a little bit about me. I live in Jerusalem now, and I work as an educator, a Jewish educator, and I work with Ayeka, which is the brainchild of Rabbi Aryeh Ben David, who developed this beautiful approach called Soulful education. And we're applying that Soulful education approach now to the world of parenting. But most importantly about me for the purpose of this conversation is that I'm a mother of 3 children, a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, and 2.5-year-old. And I am, as a parent, I'm very much a work in progress. I am drawn to becoming a soulful parent, I think, because I'm drawn to this topic because I think I so desperately want to become one. And I was thinking to myself that if anybody had, heard me kind of losing my patience with my children this morning, knowing that I'm leading some kind of a session on becoming a soulful parent, that I would be very humbled at this moment. So very much, this is not about an expert class in how do you parent better. It's really just an opportunity for us as parents, whether we have small children at home or whether we have teenagers or preteens or parents or children who are older and who have left the home. It's really just a very sacred time for us to reflect a little bit together. We're going to be using some Jewish texts to anchor our discussion, and also some secular literature as well, poetry from the world's wisdom as well. Just a couple words to begin with. Ralph Goldman, for whom this whole series is dedicated to, was a dear mentor and friend and teacher, and he had this great approach, or great saying that he often taught me, which was "Shlach lachmacha," throw out your bread onto the waters and see what comes back. And that was his way often of saying, just try a lot of things and see what sticks, see what resonates with people. And so this is our collective throwing out our bread, that the Jewish wisdom that you'll hear is just a real invitation to see what resonates with you tonight. Just a couple of technicalities. One is if you have a piece of paper and pen or pencil near you, please grab that. And we're going to be asking you at certain points to reflect and journal and have some kind of quiet time to yourself in this live broadcast. So please get that ready for yourself. And if you don't have a copy of the text sheet, you can go to the Global Day of Jewish Learning's website, 24x24, and click on my little picture, and you'll see the source sheet downloadable there. So I recommend that you at least bring it up on your screen so that you have it, unless you can read with very tiny print, because we have that available to you in this broadcast. So just a little bit of a transition from wherever you were, whatever busyness that you just came from, whether you're in America and you just came from brunch. I would love that if I just had brunch on a Sunday morning. Or, you came home from work, you put the kids to bed, wherever you are in the world. We just want to be able to transition into this space, which is a little bit of a different space than our normal. So I invite you to put down whatever you're doing and get comfortable for a moment. And we're just going to take a couple of deep breaths together and just center ourselves a little bit for this conversation. And I invite you to take a breath in and out. Just feel a little bit relaxed and here and in this place, wherever it is that you are. And as you breathe in the next time, I invite you to breathe in something that nourishes you as a parent right now. Might be an image of your child children, a feeling of warmth, any kind of feeling you've had with them today, yesterday. So breathe that in for a minute. And as you breathe out, just exhale something that's distracting you, something that you don't feel great about, something that's getting in your way as a parent of your children. Maybe impatience, aggression, anything. So I invite you to breathe in a few more times. Breathe in an image and breathe out something that distracts you, gets in your way. Just take another minute. And when you're ready, you can join us. So our topic tonight, love, parenting, becoming soulful. So when we're our best parenting selves, these ideas go beautifully together. We love our kids. We can't wait to, kiss them in the morning. We'll wipe off the vomit on their shirts when they vomit over us in the middle of the night if they're sick, and we'll clean up after them and take care of them. We'll marvel in their accomplishments, even if they're rude to us at the dinner table a few minutes before, or even as our kids get older, we'll do anything for them, time, money, to help them, to help support them, help them build a family or get a job or buy a home. And these are amazing aspects of parental love, for sure. But so often we're distracted or impatient, or we have too much going on for ourselves and our own egos and our own needs, in seeking out our own advancement, professional or otherwise, that we don't really have time to focus on them and to focus on listening to them and really seeing them fully. I know for myself, my daughter will sometimes, I'll be running around the house so busy doing so many things for all three of my kids that sometimes she'll, put her hands over my face and say, "Ima, look at me." And that's it's a very sobering moment for me when she does that. Because when I can take the time to look at her and listen to her, I can connect a little bit to her soul and to my soul as well. So what is being a soulful parent or becoming a soulful parent? Well, I'll tell you what it's not, right? It's not another tactical how-to about the best strategies to use for a particular, behavioral issue you're experiencing with your child at the moment, and it's not the perfect script to say at every point in order to elicit the response that you want. It's none of those things. Becoming a soulful parent is really about cultivating an awareness. Cultivating an awareness that you were created in God's image, that your child was created in God's image, and that your job is really to cultivate them and to cultivate their soul. So it's a shift of perspective, and you're not a soulful parent all the time. There's certainly plenty of times when you're very frustrated, but it's really just a greater awareness and a greater lens for us to understand our children a little bit better. And when I think about it in a larger perspective, I think that becoming a soulful person is really checking in with this idea that or becoming a soulful parent is really checking in with this idea that we're soulful people, right? Being a soulful person is really recognizing the ultimate that Judaism has to offer, which is a sense of unity, right? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, that there is unity of all things, that things are interconnected, that we yearn to be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. Giving to others and working for the betterment of the whole is something that's really in our DNA. I think about it, and Aryeh, mentioned this example to me, which I loved, which was, especially for those in America, Black Friday is coming up soon, and Western advertising would have you believe that if you, you'll be really happy if only you had that new X, that new iPad or whatever it is. But actually, the secret is that you're really happy when you give that new iPad to somebody else. Giving to others, connecting to others, that's what it means to become a soulful person and to really work for the sense of unity. So how does that work in a family context or with parenting? So our families are like mini laboratories where we can see how we can manifest this larger vision, right, of unity and oneness in a full and busy and sometimes even contentious arena of our family lives and our home lives, right? How can we move beyond the power struggles toward a little bit more tranquility, harmony? How can we create possibilities of connection where we might not have been aware that they existed? Or how can we model being compassionate both to ourselves, our spouses, and our kids in order to model what it means to be a compassionate person in the world around us? So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at two different aspects of becoming a soulful parent. One is recognizing the soul of our child, and the other is recognizing my own soul as a parent. Before we jump to the text, just a short note about language. We're going to be looking at different texts that has God as a central player. If you're not comfortable with that language, Wendy Mogul in a book that I just read of her says, substitute the word reality. That could work too, or a force higher than myself. Like, let's state it on the words. Also, in terms of some of the texts are really about use male and female as the kind of model of the parents having children, having biological children. But as we know in the world today, there are so many different kinds of parents, right? There are some of us who adopt our children, some of us who undergo IVF, egg donation, and some of us have biological children. So let's use some of the wisdom that we're learning and that we see beyond the exact terminology that the rabbis use. So we're going to get started. We're going to start with the first text on your page. It's from the Babylonian Talmud, Masechet Nida, 31a. I'll read it and then we'll open it for discussion. Jester and Rabbi. Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis taught. There are three partners in man: the Holy One, blessed be He, his father and his mother. His father supplies the semen of the white substance out of which are formed the child's bones, sinews, nails, the brain in his head, and the white in his eye. His mother supplies the semen of the red substance out of which is formed his skin, flesh, hair, blood, and the black of his eye. And the Holy One, blessed be He, gives him the spirit and the breath, beauty of features, eyesight, the power of hearing, and the ability to speak and to walk, understanding and discernment. So, students, what do you notice about this? What jumps out at you?
Well, I found this source to be very comforting and empowering as a mother and as a partner, parent, and to our three children. I really connected to the part about God, the Holy One, who gives breath and who gives life and gives uniqueness, to each of our children and to each of us and to each of our children. For me, it's comforting and empowering because we're not trying to create little copies of ourselves. There's a purpose, and each of our kids brings something different into the world and different into our lives, and we have a role as parents, in their creation and in the continuation of their development of life. So I really connect to the different aspects, and it's really beautiful for us to be able to see our kids as partners in what we're doing, that they are active. They're not passive in this process at all. We're not just supposed to train them in a Pavlovian way. They are really active, and they're helping inform us as we parent them and keep them on a path somehow. With each kid, it's different.
I love that idea. I love that. There was something that someone once told me, which was that you learn to be a parent with your second child. That I mean, for those who have one child, also definitely are a parent with one child. But there's something also about just that sense of really learning from your child or your children how to be who they need you to be. Any other
I was
thoughts?
going to say that before I read this, I mean, I had not really. It was something that was sort of shocking to me in the sense that even though I am an observant person, I had never really considered God as a partner in this thing called marriage and raising children. And it's an obvious thing, and yet it was comforting in the way that Dara was talking about, because you think, oh, there's backup here. There's something else out there that is that's with you, that's perhaps guiding you, perhaps guiding your kids, or guiding your whole unit in doing this thing that is called parenting and children, or parents and children. And it was sort of surprising to me to the fact that I've been a parent for this many years and hadn't considered it, and what a comfort it is to all of a sudden say, oh, right, we're not in this alone, and there is, you've actually haven't been alone in the entire process. There's, God has been around in this whole thing, and you might have just forgotten about her presence, but allow yourself to consider it.
Right. Like God isn't reserved for a place on Saturday morning or during a holiday or in a Siddur. That there's another conception of God that we can consider that just informs everything that we do and how we are in the world, especially in our home lives and in our family lives.
So I would just add that there's something interesting to me in the text about, I don't know, maybe it's imagery, but sort of the body parts that are talked about, and the aspects of the body that come from the father, the aspects of the body that come from the mother, and looking at those things and thinking, wow, these things are really vital when you think about how a child functions. If there's something going on with their bones, if there's something going on with their brains, if there's something happening with their blood, these are all serious things that come from us, and where we really are very connected to the children. But then reading on and seeing the aspects that come, the physical aspects, or the physiological aspects that come from God, and the idea of hearing and speaking and understanding and walking, it says to me that while there's a huge, and this goes a little bit to what Jessica was saying about having backup, I feel that there is this huge thing when I look at my children and I think, how much of that is, how much of Dara am I seeing? How much of me am I seeing? And then realizing that sometimes what we're seeing is so much larger and so much greater than we can necessarily comprehend, and to say, okay, I have a place where I can place that. I have a place where that can live, and that the God place. And I know that having looked at this text before, and that there have been those small victory moments in parenting where I see something and smoke is beginning to come out of my ears over some situation, and I'm able to sort of stop and be like, you know what? I'm not attributing anything that's happening right now to me as a father, to Dara as a mother. This is something that's grander and more grandiose than the both of us.
It takes some of the edge off a little bit. And really, I think, as you all are saying, it really connects us to a mystery. There's really a mystery here, and and I think there's such a comfort sometimes. Leanne and I do this all the time. We have 3 kids, but we each take one of the older 2, and we're like, this one's like me, this one's like you. The third one, we don't know yet. She's too young, and we revel in that. And sometimes I realize how much I'm looking at that, because I want to see myself as in control of the story. I want to know that my daughter's path is predetermined to be exactly as my path has been, and I know that that's not the case. And I know that when I see her processing something differently, or reacting to something differently than I would, or having a different, they get frustrated by things that I would never consider getting frustrated about, or other personality traits, really, I think, as you say, Robbie, just gives us a window into eternity that is such a blessing to be able to to live with, you know. Thank you. Really, really beautiful comments. I want to add just this other source, which is an echo, I think, of the source from the Talmud, which is by Khalil Gibran, who is a Lebanese artist, philosopher, and an essayist who wrote the book The Prophet. So many of us who have put together baby naming ceremonies might be familiar with this passage, but I think it has a new depth to it when we look at it, you know, juxtaposed to the text from the Talmud. So I'll read it. Children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. For even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. What line resonated with you in this poem, looking at it again? Anything that struck you, or a line that really...
Your children are not your children, which is, you know, what Darren and Robbie were both saying. I mean, it's just so true. I mean, or like you were saying, Dasee, you know, it's, you have these children, you instill in them your dreams and your hopes and what you want for them and what you want for them for themselves, and yet kids become the people that they become, you know, hopefully with the values and ideas that you instill in them, but, you know, they're lent to you for a while, for hopefully a long while, but they're on loan. And it's just that reminder, you know, I think we know it, but it's this reminder that they're not continuing your life, they're not your future. They will go and do what they are going to do, and that can, I think that's hard to sometimes remember when they're small and depend on you for so much. But, you know, as they get older and become the people that you see them becoming, it's just this reminder that comes back to you over and over again, even with all the logistics and the school days and the homework and the bath time and all that stuff. It's an important reminder.
Like you get to share this precious time together. Right.
You know, that's that whole hold on to it because it's going to be gone.
I particularly I like the very ending of this, because I feel like the metaphor could almost like produce a mantra. You know, there are so many moments where in interacting with the kids or doing something with them where I will, you know, look at Dara or look at myself and just be like, okay, parenting fail. Like, I blew that one. And I feel like when I look at I mean, I love the metaphor, but the idea that our children are the arrows and that we're the bow, and that word about stability is it's a real chizuk, it's a real strengthening to me that says sometimes, you know what, just keep cool, go with your gut, handle this situation. Just there's something about stability as I'm seeing that image of a bow that says to me, you know what? Like, this is a time where we have to trust our instincts and where we have to have a lot of faith. That we have to have a lot of faith that, as I see it, the archer is God. The archer is the higher power that's beyond our control, and we're the bow. We're but a vessel, or but a thoroughfare, for where that arrow is going to go, and that sometimes that. Seeing that situation and saying, oh my goodness, how am I going to handle this? And dealing sometimes even just with the what ifs of, oh my gosh, what if we encounter this, that, or the other? Or what if this little thing that we're seeing of a 3-year-old morphs 10 years later into something hugely challenging that at a certain level we've got to trust ourselves, and we've got to just go with it.
Yeah. I definitely see that. I love those last 2 lines as well, and I really see, we're in the stage for all of us. We have younger kids, but I'm seeing the teenage years looming off in the distance, and that sense of they need us to be stable, or even when they're out of the home and they want to come back to like the place where they have childhood memories or whatever the situation is. Just that stability is such a deeply powerful piece, and it's not always as exciting to be the stable one. But because we're evolving and we're all in process and we want to be doing all these things, and but to know how desperately needed that stability is. I love that idea as well.
I wanted to share. I echo what Jessica and what Robbie said, and also you, Dasee. This text gave me chills when we learned about it in the past, and it gave me chills again hearing it tonight. The part that I was connecting to was the middle paragraph. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. And where I went to was, like, when I am a parent and when I feel like I am connecting to this and accessing this are the moments when I can just have the presence of mind to listen to the kids and to hear their stories about their day, to hear what they think about a situation, to hear their ideas about how we should do something in our family. And, it's those moments when I can put all the different craziness of our lives that we're all trying to balance in different categories. I'm at home, I can put work in its box until they go to sleep and I have to open it back up later or the following day. Dinner isn't made yet, oh my God, but Noam needs to tell me a story that lasts 5 minutes long about something that happened at school. And it's so important to him, but I'm thinking about the water needs to boil on the stove right now because you guys have to get to bed or something like that. But I feel like those are the moments when I feel like I'm really actively, reflecting what this is talking about, of being able to really just house their bodies but not their souls, and to let their souls just shine through. We give the moments. The times when it feels the easiest sometimes it's the hardest, but sometimes it can also work the best, is on Shabbat. Like Friday night, especially now that it's winter time and we can sit around the table as a family. And if it's not totally crazy, we might have 5 minutes of just calm and everyone's sitting there. There's no distraction in our family. We put all the phones away and the iPads and everything like that, and we can just listen to each other. And to me, that's when their souls can shine through. And then in those moments when I can really capture that presence of mind, which something I always strive to, but it is a work in progress to bring back that phase you opened with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's and sometimes we can get very self-conscious about it. I remember someone saying, am I being a soulful parent now? Am I being totally present? Am I being focused? Look how focused I'm being. I'm being really focused, And I think that we all experience that, and so getting to a place where we can, with ease, really enjoy them and kind of bring back that joy and sometimes maybe even quiet the voice of like all the craziness of everything that needs to get done. Sometimes I think to myself, does everything really need to get done? Like, I want it to get done, but I don't need to empty the dishwasher before I serve dinner or before I do whatever. I think there are lots of moments where we could probably be doing a lot less than we're doing, and really give them that space. That's a great reminder, Dara. So I want us to kind of turn to our studio audience. It's not really in our studio, but anyone who's listening out there, to really to have you reflect on some of these things that we're talking about now in your own homes or wherever you are. So take a pen and paper, and I'd love for you to reflect a little bit. We'll do it for 3 minutes. I'll keep my eye on the clock. I invite you to reflect on this notion of the third partner in your parenting. So the questions are on the source sheet, but if you don't have them, I'll say it to you now. The first question is, what are the qualities that you think your child received from you? And if you're partnered, what qualities do you think your child received from your partner? So those are the first two. The third question is, what qualities do you think that your child received from God or this idea of a third partner? So we'll take a few minutes to write that down, and then I would say think about what advice you would give to yourself to help better recognize this third partner in your child. Okay, so take 2 or 3 minutes. So take 30 more seconds, and then we'll come back together. So this list is for you, and to really think about, to be very real about it. This is not a Pollyanna kind of exercise where we only are talking about the wonderful qualities of our children, but really to be honest about what we love about our kids, what drives us crazy about our kids, and some of that third partner might be a part of what we love or a part of what drives us crazy. And I think that accepting and fully embracing who they are is about really recognizing and really seeing them for what you give, for what your spouse gives if you're partnered, and also for this mysterious piece, like this third partner idea. So that's your list to keep next to you the next time you're interacting with your children. So I want to bridge a little bit to the idea of our souls, right? It's not only recognizing our children that they have souls and who they are, but it's also about us as parents. And I think that each of us is uniquely suited to be parents of our children, right? We all have certain great qualities, certain flaws and drawbacks, but for whatever reason, and that it's been determined, that God determined that we're the parents for our children, right? So what do we do with that? How do we understand it? How can we appreciate what we have to offer and really embrace it and honor it? And how can we also recognize what gets in our way and try to move past that when we can? So I want us to look at the next source on your sheet. It's from Pirkei Avot, from the teachings of our fathers, developing awareness of being created in God's image. So I love this quote. I love this text. Beloved is man, for he was created in the image of God. Still greater was God's love in that God gave to man the knowledge of his having been so created. What I love about this text is, we have this idea of being B'Tselem Elohim, right? And many of us know about this, but this idea of having a real awareness that every single day we can have an awareness that we were created in God's image, that we were put on this planet to do something, and that we are each uniquely gifted in serving that greater purpose. So when our ego voices come in, when we worry about our own accomplishments too much, or when we wonder how we're measuring up to the outside world, or how good am I as parents, or how great and accomplished are my kids, and feeling judged or feeling insecure about it, there's a real knowledge here of being created in God's image gives us this greater awareness that we're here for a reason and that we have unique qualities to give. So I want to ask, we're going to take a look at 3 more sources, and I'll ask Robbie, Dara, and Jess to each take one source. And the first one, Jess, if you wouldn't mind reading, it's a Rav Kook piece. It's called "Find Yourself." It's the next source on your text sheet. And Rav Kook was the first Ashkenazi chief rabbi of British-mandated Palestine, and was a real luminary, scholar, philosopher, mystic, and one of his seminal works is Orot HaKodesh, or Holy Sparks, Holy Light, and this is from that piece.
Okay. Every person needs to find himself within himself, and afterwards he finds himself in the world that surrounds himself, in his society, his public, and his people.
Right, b'toch atzmo, in his chevra, in his public, tzibura, and in his people, his or amo. Right, so there are different gradations of internal and then kind of moving outwards. And for me, when I think about this text, I'm always struck by the parenting industry, that I think though I very much benefit from many of the parenting books that are out there and on the market and amazing authors, but I'm always struck with this idea that there's so much advice, and it's really like this kind of like whittling away of I can find myself as a parent within myself, right, within everything that I know to be true, and all the values that I find, that are true to me and is a part of my unique upbringing because of my parents and the situation of my own life. Robbie, you mentioned the word gut, when you have your gut feeling. I think that so much of of how parenting is spoken about doesn't make space for that. In my experience, do you find how does this text resonate with you? Do you find that as a parent to be able to find yourself within yourself is easy? Is it a challenge? Are you able to drop into that easily?
Is for me or for Dara or for Robbie?
Anyone.
Anyone. Oh, okay.
Be our guest, Jess.
Yeah. What'd you say?
Be our guest.
Be our guest. Okay. Yeah, I mean it's true. When you said that, Dasee, about the parenting industry, and that's there's the books, and then there's the websites, and the parenting websites, and the posts on Facebook and on Twitter and everything else, and the blogs and everything that everyone is thinking about parenting. And sometimes you read those things and you think, you nod to yourself and you say, yes, 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 that's exactly how I feel. And then I think very often you have to just go back and find your instincts and find that relationship that we talked about at the very beginning, the relationship that you have with your partner, if you have a partner in your parenting a parenting partner, and God, and find what you want to say and what you want to think and how you want to react to your kids, and guide them in this parenting path that you're taking. I think, I'm sure we've said this tonight, parenting is, it's that saying that everyone says, it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do. And it is such a complex, difficult, rewarding process. And it requires so much inner strength. Echoing what Rav Kook said. Mm-hmm. It requires, whether it's the strength that you need at the end of the day, or early in the morning, or taking that extra breath and paying attention to this little person or bigger person, and being the person that they need you to be. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's such an elemental part of it.
Mm-hmm. I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I love about the text also is that it doesn't say only stay within yourself, right? It's not a solitary life, and you're not parenting alone. And I think there is something strong about being able to have those conversations with other people, the struggles that you're having. But it's just about that prioritization, I think, and just listening to yourself first.
I feel like when I read that, I'm reminded of when you get on an airplane and they're giving the instructions, and of course there's this horrible thing of well, if the plane goes down, this is how you handle things. And that thing about people with children that says, the first thing to do is to get your own oxygen source, and before you go to serve the needs of your kids. And that's there's a part of me that sees something like that and thinks to myself, like that's crazy. Why would I even delay a millisecond looking out for my kids' needs, but my kids' well-being? But there is something to be said about us being able to take that moment and zero in on ourselves, and find the strength and the focus there.
Yeah, I think it's also when you model some kind of compassion or care for yourself. First, you're teaching them also of how to be compassionate, right? That they need to also take care of themselves. If we're always, suffering at their, for their benefit, then we won't be able to be much use for them, but we're also not modeling something for them of what it means to take care of yourself. That's a great addition. Dara, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm happy to move on to the other text. I'm thinking, I'm processing.
So we'll go to the other two, and maybe Robbie will read the next one by Mary Sarton. She's an American poet and a novelist who died in 1995, and she wrote a lot about dealing with issues of aging and isolation and friendship and gratitude for the small things in life. And this is the beginning of one of her poems, "The Faces We Wear." Robbie, if you could read this one.
Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places. I have been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces.
I'm wondering how we read this as a parent. Sometimes I know for myself, I even with I try to be different models, right? Different models that I see, different people, advice that I've heard from different people, try to take them on. Sometimes successful, sometimes not so successful.
I think that, I think we can all look at our lives and see different stages we've been in and different faces we've tried on, different parts of our personality that we've emphasized, or different personas we've taken on. And I think it continues in parenting also. I mean, it may not be as dramatic, but I think we're all trying to find the right balance of like what was said before, of seeing the different models in our friends and our parents and our grandparents and colleagues and different role models that we have, and seeing the models that they present to us. And I think that we do borrow, we do try different things on for size. Our kids are so dynamic, relating back to what we talked about in the previous text, that we're trying to understand what is the God in them, who are these people. And I find that at the same time where I really find so much value and support in what was echoed in the other texts about we are the perfect parents for our children, but that I also am leaving the space that I'm still always developing. It's that work in progress thing, and I'm taking information from different sources, and sometimes I wear different faces with it. So I don't know if I feel negative about it, or if sometimes I feel negative, sometimes I feel self-conscious, sometimes I feel like this is what it is, and maybe this is the right way it's supposed to be, because it's so dynamic. I kind of relate to it differently based on where I'm holding.
Yeah. And I think, in the context that Mary Sarton's writing is toward the end of her life, and so this concept of now I become myself. That you can say that confidently after you've accomplished many years, or you've spent many years of your life. But what would it even mean for us to say, now I become myself, where we are right now, and just to kind of own that sense of confidence or self-knowing. I like what you said there about dynamism, and absolutely, we don't have it all figured out at all, but just in some deep way, accepting deeply that this is who I am, this is how I am, this is how I can shine my particular light into, the world, but here, just, into my family life, and I'm going to fully become that. We'll move to the last text on the page. This is from Dr. Brene Brown. If you haven't seen her on her TED Talks, they're fabulous, on vulnerability and shame, and she writes a lot about that. She's a professor at the University of Houston, and has spent a lot of time, 13 years, talking about courage and worthiness and vulnerability. And Derek, you just want to read this last piece?
Sure. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are.
Well, that would be a good thing.
There's I can't help but think of authenticity, reality. I would even go to sort of that idea of completeness, that idea of shalem, and then of course, what's the most common shalem thing? It's shalom, like, and shalom is about peace. And so, like, trying to see some kind of, when I think about what authenticity really is to me, it's being able to be at a near perfect peace with something, and it is. I know that as an individual, that those few and far between moments of feelings of personal authenticity are just awesome. And the grappling from moment to moment with that, putting to the side those voices of, this is what you're supposed to be, this is what you're supposed to look like, and really being able to say, okay, guess what? I didn't return that call again. But you know what? That doesn't make me an evil human being. It just makes me Robbie.
Yeah. Well, I would love for us to just think about, we have some more questions for reflection here of, these three texts, Rev Cook and Mary Sarton and Brene Brown, which one for all of us to maybe jot down to ourselves and anyone who's listening, what resonated most with you, what spoke the most to you or felt true to you. And also, if you were to articulate your God-given qualities, what would you say they are? How do you put them into practice in your parenting? Maybe one example. And then, if you get to it, what's one thing that gets in your way, that distracts you from these qualities, from expressing these qualities? So take 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll get back together. So maybe if you like, you can finish up writing. And for us here, I would love to hear what's one way you put, one of your God-given qualities into practice in your families. So just some examples, or one example that you wrote about. For me, I wrote, I think one of my God-given qualities is silliness and, experiencing joy kind of easily. So for me, I love the moments, and it often happens on Saturday mornings where I just dance and sing and just be super silly with my kids. And I see how much they open up to that and embrace it and love it. And I realized during the week, I'm so we have to do so many things that I don't let myself go there. And I think that's really missing for me. So that's one thing I want to think about working more on.
I mean, just to echo that, yeah, the playfulness. I was playing knock hockey. No, like a fake, what's it called? Air hockey with one of my kids tonight. And I beat him last night, and he beat me tonight. And we've just sort of had this ongoing game with it. And right, it's just like when your real self comes out, and you know, you're not worrying about homework, and you're not worrying about dinner, and you're not worrying about any of those other things, and you can just sort of be your real self, and you're both spending that kind of time with them, but in the most enjoyable of ways, you know, because you're just being who you are, and they know it, they see it, and they appreciate it.
That's great. Thank you. What about for you guys, Darren, Robbie?
Well, Dasee, you took my first one. The silliness to me is it's all about, for me, when and it's a real gift to me when I get to really go to the silly level of how one would engage on the same level a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old. The fact that I get to go to those places, I mean, it's a real joy for me. But yeah, I think one of the other things is that second to that perhaps is passion, and being able sometimes to look at the kids and know that they may not understand fully, based on where they are in their own development, the exact point I'm making.
Oh, Robbie, you got cut off there for a second. So I think we have some technical difficulties at the end of this, but we'll keep the playfulness and the passion and being real. And we just moved to, we're closing up, but wanted to move to homework. So this session isn't just existing here in a vacuum. Hopefully there are some ideas that were sparked for you, or ways of thinking, new ways of thinking about your role as a parent. And we really invite you to bring it into your home life. You know, your kids here, our kids are asleep, so it's easy to talk about this. But once they wake up in the morning, that's really where the rubber hits the road. And you know, I'll ask you, and this is also at the bottom of your sheet, you have 3 options, or 2 options for homework. You can either think about what advice you would give to yourself to help better recognize and honor the third partner in your child. Or even clearer than that is to be aware that the third partner is at work in your child. And the second, if you don't want to do that one, you can do the second one, which is becoming aware of how you manifest your unique God-given qualities in relationship with your children. And maybe even recognizing, when did you get it right, when did you get it wrong, and what happened. So those are 2 possible homework assignments for you. I just wanted to end by reading something to you about that Viktor Frankl wrote in his great work, Man's Search for Meaning, which was at the basis of his particular kind of analysis that he founded, logotherapy. It has to do with love. No one can fully become aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. By his love, he sees that which is potential in him, which is not actualized, yet ought to be actualized. By making him aware of what he can be, he makes these potentialities come true. And as parents, we all love our children, but I invite us all to really see them, love them, see what they're capable of, and see what we as parents are capable of as well. Good night.